Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. I am Dr. Muhammad Iftikharul Hasnain. I did my PhD from Federal Urdu University of Arts, Science and Technology, Islamabad in 2012. After this, I joined Department of Management Sciences, ComSat Institute of Information Technology, Islamabad. Before joining ComSat Institute of Information Technology, I was a lecturer in economics in Punjab Higher Education Department. I served in this department for 7 years from 2005 to 2012. I have interest in some specific areas, for example, microeconomics, macroeconomics, public finance, mathematical economics, and statistics. I have number of publications in HEC recognized journal, national as well as at international level. So now I would like to start formally. First of all, I would like to give you that the course we are going to study is, the code of this course is Mgt605 and the name of this course is Quantitative Techniques. It is necessary to give you an overview of the course, that what we are going to cover over our 32 lectures in this semester. So first of all, as usual, we will start from the definition of the quantitative techniques. Then we will see what is its importance, nature, scope, and of the quantitative techniques. Then after 2 or 3 lectures, we will be discussing the data. What is data? What are its limitations? What are its advantages? How we collect the data, and how it is necessary for our research. After this, the next topic would be the sampling. Sampling is the basic for collecting data, because if we are unable to do a good sampling, it means we are unable to collect the data that is more important. If data and sampling are not appropriately designed, it means we are not going to achieve our goals. After this, we will start a very interesting and widely used topic, that is the regression. Regression is nowadays used in almost all the discipline to analyze the relationship between the variables. First, we will discuss the simple regression model, and then we will go intensive and a bit complicated analysis, that is the multiple regression analysis. When we do the regression analysis, it suffers a number of limitations. So we will discuss these limitations one by one. And the first will be the multicollinearity. I am not going to give you any detail what is the multicollinearity and what are the others. We have long discussion. We will be doing this long discussion over this when we will be achieving this topic. After this, the autocorrelation will be our subject of discussion, and then we will be touching the heteroscedasticity, that is a major problem in estimating the regression coefficients. Then after this completing, we will study the dummy variables. Dummy variable is a very interesting techniques, and we use it in a categorical analysis, and it is very interesting. After this, logit and probit model, this is an extension to dummy variables, and these are mostly used in the survey data analysis, and these are very important, give very deep insight into the analysis, and we are able to do what we are studying the behavior when we are going to the field and collecting data after this. At the end of the lecture, we will be studying the panel data. Over this up to the last lecture, we will be studying the most of the time the time series analysis, although we will be discussing many other types of data, but our more focus will be on the time series data. At the end, we will be just talking about the panel data. We will discuss the techniques, we will discuss the advantage, and we will see that what is the difference between the time series analysis and the panel data analysis. So let me start from the, I will give you some of hints about the books. The more, there is not a specific book for this, as we will be collecting material, we will be studying material from other books, and it is advised to you that you go for other books and you should search for your own self. It will enlarge your view, and it will definitely help you in gaining the more and more insight into the topics and the course. However, there are some recommended books that you need to study. The first book is The Quantitative Method for Business, and it is written by Anderson, Swinney, and Williams. The second book is Johansson and Denrado, Econometric Methods. The word econometric is very interesting. Although this is econometrics, but we will be discussing the quantitative techniques in different sense that are more relevant to your subject. Similarly, there is a book from the Medela and another book from the Voltage. So I would suggest you that go through these books. After listening the lecture, it will help you to broaden your view. First of all, introduction. What is quantitative techniques? Quantitative tools, techniques, procedure, methodology, I will be using these words alternatively. So you should not confuse yourself when I am talking about, if I say the method, the technique, the scheme, or the procedure, these are all the identical and the similar things. If we go to the human history, we come to know, according to the Taylor and Frederick, that the human has been using the quantitative techniques since the 1,000 years before. For everyday routine, for their business, their trade, their finance, whatsoever the situation was, they were using these quantitative techniques. It is above doubt that these techniques were very, very simple as compared to the modern day. These were the techniques that showed the simple relationship between one variable or the other, but nowadays, over time, as many other disciplines have evaluated, this quantitative technique has got evolution, and we have now come to know that there are intensive methods that analyze the data. So now the question comes to mind: is it used only in economics or business or finance? No, it is not. It has no limitation. It is just techniques that all the disciplines are using this for their own purpose and in their own context. We will be using quantitative techniques in our own context that will be helpful to make our analysis, and we will be able to draw some kind of conclusion. It is not just enough the mathematics of a technique. It is not sufficient that we only know that what is the mathematics of this, because mathematics and statistics, we will be extensively using these two subjects into our quantitative analysis techniques. But just restricting ourselves to mathematics or statistics, it is not as meaningful as we should know the implication, the limitation, the advantages of using the quantitative techniques. So we will be going through these limitations, these advantages, everything, and we will be not confining ourselves up to only the mathematics and the statistics. So first of all, we define what is the definition of quantitative technique. Any procedure, formula, instrument, model that helps in analyzing any hypothesis. There are number of hypotheses. Every time we face different kind of hypothesis in different discipline, and any procedure, any methodology, any formula that helps in analyzing the relationship between the variables that is based on this hypothesis, this is called these methods, these formulas, these procedures, these techniques, these schemes called the quantitative techniques. And from now one step further from the quantitative techniques, we come to know what is the quantitative analysis. It is a scientific approach, very, very systematic and scientific approach in decision making, wherein we use data and process it and manipulate result in meaningful information. Raw data, we first of all we start from raw data and we use the application of quantitative techniques, and ultimately we reach our ultimate objective, that is the meaningful information. Keep in mind that we start from the very basic, but the ultimate objective is to draw some kind of inferential conclusion. So we use different methods, different data to reach our conclusion. It is necessary to have the we distinguish between the quantitative and what is the qualitative. So if we draw the line between quantitative and qualitative techniques, we will come to know that how important these quantitative techniques are. So first, if we look at the qualitative techniques, it gives a general and unspecified view. For example, if I say that as the price of a commodity increases, as a result, quantity demand of this commodity decreases. It is a very general, vague and unspecified view. And on the other hand, when we take this into the quantitative techniques, it gives us a clear, specific and numerical prediction about the problem. For example, taking from the same the previous example, in this view, in this quantitative side, we are able to show that if there is 10% decrease in the price of a commodity, how much 10%, 20%, 30% there will be increase in the quantity demanded. So the first difference is that at one side the qualitative techniques gives only a general view, while the quantitative techniques has the ability to give us a very precise, concise, numerical and you can say very specific result about the issue. In qualitative techniques, the second difference is in qualitative techniques we just concentrate on the words. We explain our hypothesis, we explain our result, we explain our inference in words. But when we are on the quantitative side, we use the number, we use the mathematics, we draw some numerical conclusion, and then we state the problem in a different way. The quantitative techniques, the next difference between qualitative and the quantitative is that the qualitative techniques are only subjective. They give a general purview of the problem. They are unable to specify and narrow down the problem and give a concrete and concise and precise view of the problem. On the other side, there is no subjectivity. Quantitative techniques are very objective. And if we give, there is no bias. When the result is there, there is no bias, and it cannot be interpreted in different ways. It can be interpreted only in the context, and this makes it objective. The next difference between qualitative and quantitative techniques is that in qualitative techniques we are only concerned with the case studies. In simple word, I would like to say about the stories, about the examples that this happened and as a result this was the result. For example, if we say that when there are floods, there is decrease in the yield of the agriculture sector. But this is only a case study. But at the other hand, in quantitative analysis, we do the statistical analysis. We have the ability to predict the value of the dependent variable. I will be explaining what is the dependent and what is the independent variable. Still take care that in statistical analysis we have potential to give a numerical and a precise precision of the problem. In qualitative techniques, there are very few respondents. But on the other side, in quantitative techniques, there is a large and huge number of respondents, as the techniques and using computers and softwares, now these techniques have the ability to study a large number of respondents. In qualitative side, there is no standardized data. We are not using the data in a sophisticated way. We are just looking at the behavior of the variable and drawing the general conclusion. We are not able to give some concrete and precise result. On the other side, we first clean the data, we standardize the data, that is important according to our analysis. We make the variable according to our requirements, and then we run the analysis, and we use the quantitative techniques, and that is called the quantitative analysis. And the last but not the least difference is that in qualitative techniques, it explores only the impact. It is very limited, and it can say that what is the effect of this variable on the other, positive or negative. But on the other side, it measures, it quantifies. The quantitative techniques quantify that how much the impact will be. For example, if we come at the qualitative side, they can say that if there are more rains, there will be effect on the agriculture yield. But how much this effect, this is out of the criteria of the qualitative analysis. We should have to go for the quantitative analysis, and in quantitative analysis we will be able to measure with precision that what will be, how much effect will be on our productivity in agriculture sector when there are rains. What are the qualitative factors and what are the quantitative factors? If we look at the quantitative factors, these are the, you can see here, this is the investment levels. At different time levels, there is different level of investments, and everywhere in different countries, in different farms, in different banks, in different organizations. So this is a quantitative factor. Come to next one, that is the interest rate. Interest rate is also a quantitative factor, and we can measure 5%, 10%, 2%, whatsoever. So it gives us a quantitative or a precision that we can be able to do this. Inventory level, if we go to the farms and we want to look at this, that what was the inventory level at, for example, today is March 4, we are interested in looking at the inventory level on the previous day, that was the March 3. So we will be doing this. This is also a quantitative analysis. We will come with some of the numbers, and when we are using number, I said in the previous slide, previous discussion, we say that we are using the quantitative techniques. Right here, be clear that it is not necessary that we use the quantitative techniques that is more intensive and complicated. Most of the time students think that they should use some kind of intensive, or you can say the complex technique, but this is not true. The techniques should be appropriate. It may be very simple, it may be very complicated. If we come back to our discussion, we see that the demand is also a quantitative factor. For example, what is the demand? How much people are willing to buy at a specific price and time. If I say that in Islamabad, at when the prices of apples are 100 per kg, in the market, the people are willing to buy 500 kg of apples. So this 500 kg is the demand. It is also quantifiable. So this is also called the quantitative factor. The next is the labor cost. Definitely many of the firms are using the labor, and they know what is the cost. They know it in numbers. They do not say that more cost or the less cost. If we say that what was your labor cost, they have the full data of every segment of cost, and they are in a position to tell that what was the cost of this labor they applied. Now we come to what is the qualitative factor. These qualitative factors are about which we can't quantify. The first one is the weather. No doubt we can predict the weather, but the precision remains a big problem for us. We can't quantify. We can say there would be heavy rains. This is the qualitative analysis, but we cannot say that tomorrow or day after tomorrow there will be 100 millimeter rain or 200 millimeter rain in this area or that area. So similarly, State and federal legislation, these are also qualitative in nature. And if we go to the technology breakthrough, for example, if you are studying the behavior of the profits of the firm over time, you will come to know that at different level there was breakthrough and the curve was not showing. If you look at the curve, you will see that if this kind of curve is, this means that this is not the smooth, this is not the straight line, and definitely there is some breakthrough, and this breakthrough may be due to any crisis, this breakthrough may be due to any innovation, and this cannot be quantifiable in numbers. Similarly, nowadays, from Pakistan point of view, there is a very important factor that is not quantifiable. For example, the political instability. This is the problem of Pakistan, but it has a very strong effects on the macroeconomic variable. For example, if there is political instability, there will be a negative effect on the stock exchange. But we can just only qualitatively say that there will be effect on the Karachi Stock Exchange or the Lahore Stock Exchange, but we can't say that if there is political instability, for example, there is a bomb blast in Islamabad, we can't say that this bomb blast will bring down the Karachi Stock Exchange by 5%, 10%. This is the limitation of the qualitative analysis. Now the concluding statement about the qualitative and the quantitative factors, that the information may be difficult to quantify, but keep in mind it had effect on the decision making process. So as we are looking this, we think that the variables that are not quantifiable, they become less important. It is a misperception. They are as important as our quantitative variable. So we should try our best to capture their effect, and it should be clear. I should be explaining it that these variables that are the qualitative variable, they have a significant effect on our behavior of the variable. Now we are entering into the domain that why study quantitative techniques. It is very interesting question that why we should go for quantitative techniques. So I would say that it is more important. It is as important as oxygen for the survival of any humankind, because in our everyday life we are making use of the quantitative techniques, consciously or unconsciously. For example, if you go to any of the market, when you ask for the price, in your mind you are making the quantitative techniques, you are making the quantitative analysis. So the quantitative techniques are very important, and it makes your work very easy. For example, it helps you to make sense of what to heed and what to ignore in statistical information, because when we will be doing analysis, there will be much more statistical information, but what we will be doing, we will be just abstracting the information that will be more relevant to us, and this will help us in deciding, and this explain that why we should go for the quantitative techniques. Quantitative, the further reason behind studying the quantitative techniques is that it helps us in studying different reports, for example, from IMF, World Bank, the news and newspaper, surveys, political campaigns, advertisement. Nowadays you are listening on the news channels that there are surveys. They are showing the popularity of a political, you can say, political figure, for example, Nawaz Sharif, Asif Zardari and Imran Khan. They have their political survey shows that sometimes their popularity is increasing and sometimes their popularity is decreasing. This is totally based on the quantitative analysis. And at the end of this discussion, that why study quantitative techniques, I would like to speak a very comprehensive sentence that the quantitative techniques are used from house to stock market. Advantage of quantitative analysis. It is necessary to have that what are the advantage of quantitative analysis. The first advantage of this is that it can accurately represent the reality. Every time we are interested in studying the ground reality phenomena, so it helps us that accurately analyze the representation of a reality. The second advantage is it can help a decision maker formulate problems. Every time decision maker needs how to solve the problem. The problems are there, so this quantitative techniques helps the policy maker how to formulate the problem, how to analyze the problem, and ultimately how to solve and go for the problem solution. The third one is it can give us insight and information. It provides a very deep and intensive information, insight about the problem. Because if we just concentrate on the qualitative side of the analysis, I said many times previously, that it doesn't help, it doesn't meaningful. It is not meaningful, but if we say that it can, we say that it gives us an insight and information. The very important advantage of this is it can save our time and money in decision making and problem solving. Money, time, and time is also money. So it is a scarce resource. So we want to use the optimal use of scarce resources. So what is our objective? We want to use the minimum resources and we want to get maximum information, maximum output, maximum benefit from this. So this can be only achieved when we are going through the quantitative analysis. Quantitative analysis can help us to reach the destination with a very small span of time and with very small use of money as compared to the qualitative analysis. The fifth is it may be the only way to solve large or complex in a timely fashion. It is also an advantage of the quantitative techniques that if we go for different numbers, different alternatives, we come to know that it may be that this is the only solution. We have nothing to, with the other solution. So at the end we reach that this is the only quantitative techniques that can help us to come out or analyze this problem. The next one will be it is very helpful in communicating problems and solution to others. If we just keep the solution of the problem to ourselves, it has no importance. But what is our objective is, the first we have to analyze the problem, then we have to come with the solution, and the ultimate our objective is to discuss it with the people. People here means the policy maker, so that they could come with the concrete measures that could help us in solving this problem. The last but again not the least advantage of this is that it can help in forecasting the future of the business of available information. This is the most important, because our fundamental objective is to predict the behavior of the variable. So quantitative techniques enable us that we predict this with precision and concreteness. So what happens here, for example, if we say that if we increase the level of pesticides, the fertilizer in agriculture, we come to know that how much our yield will increase in 2014. So this is the prediction. For example, we say that if Pakistan want to achieve the GDP, 10% GDP growth, how much investment we require to do at this time. So this is we can get the answer only by doing the quantitative analysis, and we are making the prediction. You are listening nowadays many prediction that the population of the world will be up to that level, up to this level in 2020, and you are also listening that in 2050 there will be scenario of the investment in this, education level will be this, and this is all based on the quantitative analysis. Qualitative analysis just will help help you that the education level will increase. But when you come with the concreteness, you will say that in Pakistan by 2050, if we go at the same speed, maintaining the assumption, we say that in 2050, I suppose that the literacy rate in Pakistan will be 95%. And it can also be predicted on the basis of our analysis that in 2050, there will be all school-going children will be in the schools rather than in the streets and bazaars. How the quantitative technique works? It is very, very interesting, very easy, and very helpful in solving the problem. So first is, it is a systematic process. Do not go randomly. It starts from a basic point, then step by step we discover the distance, and ultimately we reach the decision. If we start from the next or the next to next, then we will come to know that it is not a systematic techniques. We are choosing it randomly, then it is totally meaningless and purposeless. So first of all, what is the first step? You can say this is the first step, and it is the define the problem. It is half done. If you identify the problem, if you define the problem, it is almost 50% of your research is over. Because the most of the time the people are unable to define the problem. There are number of problems, there is no lack of problem. In every firm, in every organization, in every institute, there are many problems. But before starting your research and analysis, you should be very, very careful. You should be focused. You should narrow down your research, because it will save lot of your effort, your money, and your resources. So first fundamental start is that you should define the problem in a very, very proper way. If I will again say that think many times before starting your analysis and going to the next step. Take enough time on thinking that what is your problem. Most of the time the student come with the situation that they have not still defined their problem in a proper way. They will come with a mix-up of problem, and they give us only a general overview of their problem. But this is not. Narrow down your research, be focused, come to one point. The more narrower your research is, the more purposeful its effect and its impact on the conclusion, and you are going to draw very useful conclusion. So how to start? This is the starting point. If you look at here, you come to know that this is the starting point, and well begun is half done. So if you start in a very positive and aggressive, and you can say in a very appropriate way, it means you have completed your destination half, and the next half will be the next step. The second idea that develop a clear and concise statement. Your problem should be crystal clear. Not only clear, it should be crystal clear, and it should be as concise as possible. The third is, this is the most important, and at the same time it is a very difficult step. It is very important. And why it is difficult? It is difficult on the reason that to identify the problem, it is a very, very tough job. You should have to go through the literature. You have discussed with other people. You should have go for the previous literature to know that how much research have been done on this issue. So it means it will take time. That's why in the beginning I said take enough time and concentration to develop a problem. And when selecting the right problem is very difficult, there are number of problems before you. So they have their own importance, and you are attractive. There are eye-catcher problem, and you are in a fix that which to select and which to ignore. So how to select? It is now up to your interest, your area, your context, your resources, and your most of the time your interest from the literature and your interest from the background, that in which side and in which problem you are going to take the problem. For example, a person may be interested in the behavior of the employees towards the management. It maybe is due to any interest, and the other person may be interested in just looking at the profits of the firm over the years. The next is your objectives should be specific and measurable. Sometimes the people want to bring more and more things into one context, and ultimate is they come with nothing. So what is your objective should be very, very specific, and it should be measurable. You do not go for the wild goose chase. You should be very realistic. You should not ignore the ground realities, because if you will ignore the ground realities, you will suffer while doing your analysis. And the last, it is very interesting that in the real world, quantitative analysis models can be complex, expensive, and time consuming. So before starting your next step, you should ponder many times over this, that what you are going to do, because these models should be very complex. You may face problem in solving mathematics and statistics. These may be very expensive. Look at here, and it may be time consuming. If you have limited time, you should select your topic in such a way that you complete in a specific time. This was the first step, that first of all, that how the quantitative work starts, or quantitative methodology works. It is the first step is that define the problem, or you can say that this is the statement of the hypothesis, or you can say it is any claim. For example, I say that I am going to analyze the behavior of the consumption behavior of the people, and I suppose that the female consumption behavior is relatively higher as compared to the male. So I will have to go this, and then I will use different techniques. The second is, first we assume that the first step was done in a proper way. What is the second step? That develop a mathematical model. Now this is nothing but the words you used in the previous in defining the problem. Here you will be using the mathematical notation. For example, if I say in the previous slide I said that C consumption is a function of Y. C mean here that this is the consumption, and Y means here the income. Now look at this. I can define it in I have brought it the previous discussion that the consumption depends on the income. So here I have used some of the notation. You can see the and the Y. So if I write this, C is equal to A plus BP. A plus BP means that these are now the constant A and B. I will be explaining in detail. So this I have written in the mathematical form. The meaning of this is the same as was the previous one. That was only in the words I defined the problem, but here I have give the mathematical notation. And what is the mathematical model? First of all, we see the what is the model. A model is simply a set of mathematical equations. Mathematical equation, there may be one equation, there may be a number of equations, but we will say that thing model that has a set of, or you can say one mathematical equation. What is equation? Equation is an algebraic expression that connects the variables and the constant with the equal signs. So this is also equation. If I just write that x is equal to y, this is an equation. This is the very simple equation. On both sides there are the algebraic expression, and they are jointly they have their relationship with the equal sign. Similarly, I can write this one, that the x minus y is equal to 0. This is again the different shape of the same equation. So there are now I will explain two kinds of the mathematical model. There are single equation model. If there is only one equation, we will see that this is a single equation model. For example, if I say that the quantity demand is equal to A minus BP. So this is P is the price, A and B are the constant, and QD is the quantity demand. So this is a one variable, you can say this is one equation model. There are multiple equation model. If I include with this the quantity supply model, it will become the market model. There will be two equations. So multiple equation model is in which there are two or more than two equations. In model generally there are variables. I think you are aware of the definition of the variable. The quantities that keeps on changing, they are called the variables, and in mathematical notation we show them by the symbols of the last alphabets of the English alphabets. There are parameters, and these are the unknown fixed values. We will be discussing these in detail whenever appropriately. Now, how to develop a quantitative model? The same, it is linked to the previous discussion. The first is an important part of the quantitative analysis approach. In the statement, you are the qualitative. That was the starting point, and it is very important that you are bringing the same thing into mathematical notation. Mathematical models have two major types. There are many types, but we are interested in the two types. If you look at the red color, you see that there is deterministic model. What this means, deterministic model? That there is no risk. You are 100% sure that you are going to measure, and you have included all the variables in your discussion. So no variable is out of your control. All the variables are in your custody. You can use according to your own way, and you will see that up to these are the deterministic model. For example, I will just write that if y is equal to beta 1 plus beta 2 x. So this is a deterministic model. There is no, here you can see there is no risk. There is no risk involved. We are well sure about this, that we are going to measure the effect of x on the y in a very precise manner. We know all the values used in the model with complete accuracy. In this model, deterministic model, not the other model, in deterministic model, we are very sure we have measured accurately all the variables, and definitely when we have measured all the variables in an accurate way, we are going to get a concrete solution where there will be no chance of, you can say, the mistake. The other kind of the variable is, if you see that there are probabilistic model. These are very interesting model, because nowadays in social sciences we deal with the human behavior, and there are number of factors that influence the human behavior. So if there is human behavior, it is not exactly like a machine, so it means then there are chance of some risk of measuring this. So for this we will have to use the probabilistic model. What we use in the probabilistic model, just we introduced some of one of the other thing, that for example this is y is equal to beta 1, that is the parameter, beta 2, that is also parameter, this is x, and plus we introduce the epsilon. This is the error term. I may be using it as UI. Epsilon means the unknown. This captures the effect of those variable that we cannot control, or you can simply say that they are out of our reach and we cannot capture their effect. For example, if we go to the demand function, we simply says that as the price, there is a negative link between the price and demand. But the quantity demand is affected not only by the price but the many other factors. For example, you say the taste of the consumer, and we cannot measure how the taste of the consumer will change over the time. Similarly, the weather, for example, if there is, you can say that if it is June, July, and there is, the people are buying the snow, ice, people are buying the ice, then there will be high price for this. But if immediately there is heavy rain and there is a hailstorm, you will come to know the behavior has changed, the weather has changed the situation, the mercury has fallen down, and now people are not much interested in buying the ice. So it means the quantity demand of the ice not depends on only its price, but many other factors. So many other factors, now the weather is not out in our control. So we make our model probabilistic rather than the deterministic. So what we say, look at this model here, this is totally deterministic. You are sure about this. In natural sciences this is used. For example, if nowadays you are listening from the news that the Curiosity, that is a robot that was sent to the Mars, it is now it has landed on the Mars. So it was based on this kind of equation. There were number of variables and the scientists knew all these variables with precision. But in the probabilistic model, you see here that what happens here, that we can not measure all the variables with the accuracy. For example, I want to make this model probabilistic rather than deterministic. Suppose, for example, the Curiosity lands on the Mars after 1 minute of the expected time. So this model becomes now the probabilistic model, because there is a error of precision or measurement. So most of the time we will be concerned with the probabilistic model that are mostly used in you can say in the social sciences that we deal with the human behavior. In profit function, if I would like to give some example from the profit function, you can say the profit of the firm based on many of the things: the ability of the managers, the efficiency of the workers, the market condition, but there are many other factors that can influence that may be out of your control. The third is starting from the first one was the identification of the problem. The second was the specification of the probabilistic or the econometric model. So I did in the previous, so it is simply you can say this is the introduction of error term in deterministic model. So what this error term are, I will be using I will be using different words for this. I will be using the epsilon, I will be using the error term, I will be using the residual term, and you should not confuse yourself. This is the same thing. If you look at there, in mathematical model, it assumes that there is the exact relationship between the variables. As I gave you the example from the journey of the robot of Curiosity that is nowadays on the Mars for different purposes of the research. However, it is not interested, the deterministic model is not much of interest in the social sciences, because as I said in the previous slide, there is some scope for the, you can say, the measurement error and whatsoever. And if you see here, the relationship between the variables in social sciences is generally inexact. It is not 2 + 2 = 4. We can't say this, that if the price of a thing increases by 10%, we can't say that it will increase 100% by 20%. Although we have quantitative techniques and we can say, but in ground realities, we will have to take some of the assumption. If the assumptions are maintained, then we will be able to give a concrete conclusion. As I said, that the introduction of the error term, we introduce this error term into our deterministic model, and our third step is over. Our model becomes statistical, you can say the probabilistic, or you can say that it becomes the econometric model. The last thing in this is it captures the effect of unquantifiable forces. There are many unquantifiable forces, need not to explain as I have discussed in detail all the things. The fourth is related to this. Now I will explain that what is the importance of this error term that we have used into the model, into the deterministic model, and that due to this reason our model became the probabilistic. The first term, if you look at this is proxy for the omitted variable. Omitted variable, definitely and again definitely there are many variables that we cannot quantify and we cannot bring them into our model. So many of the variables that are out of our analysis, their effect is captured by this error term, and we suppose that their effect is captured by this error term. All other variables, for example, look at here, very simple model, that C is equal to beta 1 plus beta 2 y plus epsilon. Now what this means, see, you can see that this y has effect on C and this will be measured by the beta 2. And the epsilon, the forces that we cannot introduce into the error terms, their effect will be captured in the error term. So this is the situation. The first reason for using the error term is that it is a proxy for all the omitted variables. You can't say that it is just explaining only one variable. It is explaining many of the all the variables that are not included into our model. There may be one excluded variable, there may be 100 excluded variable. All their effects is captured through this error term. The second is the unavailability of data. It is very interesting that we know that variable has effect in our model. We want to bring that variable into model, but unfortunately the data is not available. For example, if we go into the field, we want to see the income of the people, the data is available for this. But if you go for this, the wealth, this is very difficult to measure, because wealth is something broader concept than the income. It includes all the assets of a person, so it is very difficult. So we know that not only the income affects the consumption, but wealth has also effect on the consumption. So now we want to introduce the wealth factor into our model, but we have no data for this. So we assume that if we omit this variable, its effect will go into the error term. So now you can see that how the crucial role error term plays in our analysis. The third reason for this is that core versus peripheral variable. Peripheral means that are not as important as the core variable. Sometimes we see that the joint effect of two variables has significant effect on the dependent variable. But if we separate these variables, for example, I say that here that y is equal to beta 1 plus beta 2 x plus beta 3 x2, this is x1. So what this means, for example, I say that x1 has also a significant effect, but x2 has effect, but it is not as significant as it should be. So what we say that this x1 is the core variable, and this x2 has now become the peripheral variable. So what we do to our resource constraint, and we suppose that this x2 has a very, very small effect on the y. So we can exclude this variable, and we will say that we have excluded the peripheral variables and their effect will be captured by the error term. The fourth reason behind using this, that there is randomness in human behavior. Human behavior, whatever kind of quantitative techniques we are using, it is totally random. It cannot be explained in like a machine or a computer. And so due to this randomness, for example, in 1 month you see that the people are spending more money, and in the next month the same family is spending less money. So this is randomness in the behavior of the people. So this randomness cannot be captured, but it has effect on the consumption. So we say that this effect will also go into the error term. Now there is the fifth reason. If you come here, this is the poor proxy variable. Sometimes we use a proxy variable as instead of the true variable. For example, if I come here, for example, if you go to the people and you ask about their income, you will be astonished that the people are hesitating and they will not be able to give you the right answer, and they are not interested in giving you the right answer because they think that if their income is revealed, they may be taxed. So now you are a researcher and you need this type of data because it has a link and it has a significant effect on the consumption. So what will you use? Rather than using this income variable, you will be going for some of the proxy variable, and I write here that you ask people, rather than their income, you ask what is your consumption. The people will immediately tell you that how much their consumption. Now what you have done, you have used the expenditure as a proxy for the income variable. So I say that although you captured the consumption in a very precise ways, but still it is a proxy for the income, and there is not exact relationship between the consumption and income. And whatever you take decision, it is not a true representation of the income. Although it is a good representation, good proxy variable for the income, but consumption is not as the income. The next is why we use the error term into the model. This is very interesting, all the things, and you should remember this, that why we make our model the probabilistic. The principle of parsimony. Time and money are limited, resources are limited, and if we know 100 variables, 1000 variables, it is not possible for us to get the data for all those variables and include all those variables into our model. So what we say is that due to we just select the more that were the core variable in the previous slide. So what we do, we take the more important variable according the theory tells us, the statement tells us that which variable is more important and which variable is comparatively less important for this. So we will be making parsimony. We are saving our resources as our resources are limited. So we will be doing this. And the last one is that there may be wrong functional form. Wrong functional form, for example, you assume that the relationship between the variable is linear. Y is equal to a plus bx. If I draw this on the graph, this makes this kind of line. So it was your just perception that it was a linear relationship. But what was in reality, it was not a linear relationship, it was a quadratic. A plus bx plus cx square. So it was non-linear relationship. So what you did, you mispercepted the first model. So now you have used the second one. We say to some extent this effect will be captured by the error term. So this was some of the reason that give the justification for using the error term. So error term is so important that most of the time in our next discussion, particularly starting from the regression, we will be talking more and more about the error term. if we are the more we know about the error term, the more we know about the quantitative techniques, particularly the regression. The first, if you remember, we are discussing that how the economic and the quantitative methodology work. The first step was identify the problem. The second was set a mathematical model, and the third was that use a statistical model rather than the deterministic model. Now we assume that the first three steps have been done in a very proper way and everything was okay with those steps. The fourth step is acquiring data. Data is directly related to the reliability of your analysis. If data is more reliable, it means your analysis is much more reliable and you need not to worry about this. So now you are interested in estimating the model. So for this you need data. For example, look at here. If I say, again I am just using the simple model, y is equal to a plus bx. Now you need data on two variables, that is the x and that is the y. So now for example, y is the quantity demand and x is the price. So now you need data on the prices and the quantity demand. So what you will be doing, you will be using different techniques to collect the data. So in the very beginning you should be very careful about this. The more data reliability, the more reliable your analysis is. Data may come from different sources. For example, it may be reports, it may be company documents, and you can get the data from the interviews. Every technique has its limitations as well as its advantage. The quality of the data is extremely important. Need not to explain this, as I have discussed that it is directly related to the quality of your analysis. The reliability of results is directly proportional to the quality of data. This has been also done. And data collecting is an art, particularly the primary data. So before going further, I would like to discuss two major kinds of this. The first is the primary data. Primary data, the data that is in a raw form. You have not used some statistical techniques over this, you have not cleaned it, and it is only in the raw form. And that is the secondary, and it is, you are not responsible for this. It is almost reported in many of the documents. You can say in Pakistan Economic Survey, the IMF report, the World Bank report, any company's report. So this is the secondary data. Data is collected. This is very important. I am underlining this, that before starting your data collection, you should be very, very careful about that what variables you are going to collect the data. If you will go blindly into the field, you will come with nothing. Because in the beginning you should be crystal clear that what is your core variable and on which variables you need data. If you ignore these steps, definitely the reliability of your data will be questionable. The fifth step is estimation of the statistical model. Again, model is before you in this shape, that y is equal to beta 1. Beta 1 is the parameter, and plus beta 2 x plus epsilon. Now there are two parameters, beta 1 and the other parameter is beta 2. Now we are interested on the basis of, we have the data of x variable, we have the data of y variable. Now on the basis of these given values, we are interested to find the values of the beta 1 and the beta 2. We are still not concerned about that which techniques we are going to use. There are very sophisticated techniques that we will be using in collecting this kind of data. But here just to say that there are two common techniques. The first is solving equations. As in the mathematical model slides, I said that we are using different equations to show our model. So solving equation, if we solve the equations, definitely we come with the the numerical value of the beta 1 and beta 2. The second is trial and error. You use different techniques and ultimately you choose which is the best one. This is trial and error, and it is never encouraged. You should be careful in using this. The sixth step is hypothesis testing, or you can say that testing the solution. Now everything was okay up to the data collection, estimation. Now you came that the results are before you, on your table before you. What you are saying, that the model should be tested for accuracy. This word is very important. It should be tested accuracy before analysis and implementation, because on the basis of these parameters beta 1 and beta 2, you have to now predict and you have to forecast the values. So you should make sure that this is the values of your parameters are you should test the values of your parameters. First of all, you will think that whether the results are according to the theory. It directly links back to your identification of the problem. For example, we said there that we say that the female has more consumption as compared to the female. Now what the theory says, now you should have to, there is a positive relationship between the income and the consumption. So your, for example, here is C is equal to beta 1 plus beta 2 y. So if the value of the beta 2 is positive, greater than 0, then your theory is right. It means as the income increases, your consumption also increases. So first step, you tested your model, your result, and you found that your result was according to the theory, and there is no need to worry about this. The next step is result should be logical, consistent, and represent the real situation. It should be logical. It should not say that if your income increased by 1%, your consumption will increase by 1000%. This is something ridiculous. So it should be some logical. It should be consistent, means that many times if you run the same analysis, the result should be similar. And it should represent the real situation. It should be feasible with the ground realities. In developed countries and in developing countries, there is different consumption behavior on different occasion. The next is we use the statistical inference hypothesis testing. This is more important, because whether your results are according to the theory or not, only the sign of the parameter tell you whether it is according to the theory or not. But if now what you want to say, that whether the effect is significant or insignificant, it is a very detailed discussion that we are going to discuss, but here I will just concentrate that we check that the values of beta 1, that are the parameters beta 1 and beta 2, these are significant or insignificant. We will be talking about making the normal distribution and saying that whether it is according to the using some statistical inference, and we will be able to check that whether it is significant or insignificant. If your results are according to the theory but they are found insignificant, then your result is not as reliable as it should be. On the other hand, if it is significant, it is according to theory, then it is more strong, and you can take some conclusion or make forecast on this, on the basis of this. The seventh the step is forecasting or prediction. Now you estimated the model. I would go again and again for this model. So what was this model? Y is equal to beta 1 plus beta 2 x. Now I write the values of beta y. Suppose it is 0.4 plus 0.9x. I have just supposed. Now 0.4 is, this is the beta 1. If you see, this is the beta 1 and this is the beta 2. So I have just supposed this value. Now if we take the values of x, now we are in a position to predict the value of y. For example, again going back, we say that this is the income and this is the consumption. For example, if I say that when the values of the variable x, that is the income, is 1000, we can solve this equation and we can predict that how much consumption of the people will be at that time. For example, if I multiply this by, look at here, 0.9 multiplied by 100, and this is 90, and we add it up into 0.4, you come to know that it will be 90.4. What this means, when the income will be of 100 million, now you can say in million or billion, when the income of Pakistan will be in 100 billion rupees, the consumption will be 90.4 billion. So on this basis, we can predict. The one objective of the studying the analysis, making an analysis, we have to make the forecast in future, because when we are able to make the forecast, then there is policy implication and our results are welcomed in a positive way. Now the last step, in last but not the least, this is the last, that what is the implementing the results policy. This is the more critical and difficult, because there are very, very attractive research that say that in which side we should go, or we should go in the other way. This is the implementation, but it is very, you can say that it is very difficult, because many people hesitatingly take this and they do not encourage you. There are many researchers that are lying in the dustbin. So this is, people resist this, particularly in the firms. When you come up with some of the research, people resist it, particularly the management, they resist this. So this is the very difficult. If you are unable to convince the people that your research is variable and they do not implement this, the whole effort and the exercise of this becomes irrelevant. Many quantitative efforts have failed. बड़े अच्छे आपने जो है वो एनालिसिस किए, but now they are all lying in the dustbin. Similarly happens with the researcher, that researcher are making different conclusion. For example, researchers are saying that our defense budget is swelling every time. It is a very alarming situation for a poor country like Pakistan, that our defense budget is increasing rapidly. So how we can afford this? The researchers say that it should be bring down, but you know that it is very difficult to bring our defense budget down due to number of reasons. So here I would like to conclude my discussion. So I would like to give you a summary of what we have concluded. We started from the what are the quantitative techniques, and very simply I should say that the quantitative techniques are extremely applicable and usable and very interesting, and these are usable in all the analysis. All the disciplines, starting from the biology to the astronomy, they are all using this quantitative techniques in their context. So you should be crystal clear that without quantitative techniques there is no concept of research, or you can say if you make some kind of research, it is not quantifiable, you can't predict with precision, and you can't forecast. Then we try to distinguish between the qualitative and the quantitative research. And what we found, that in qualitative side, most of the time we give general statement in words, but on the quantitative side we are very precise and we use data, we use statistical analysis to reach some of the conclusion. Then we started that how the econometric, how the quantitative techniques work. Every researcher will be confronting this phenomena, that while he has to conduct his research, he or she will have to come with these steps. So the first step was the identification of the problem. I will again say, I will again stress that this is the basic, core, fundamental and the most important point. If you are unable to find the problem and you can't state it in a proper way, then you are unable to do a good research. On the other hand, if you have defined your problem in a very appropriate way, half of your destination is you have completed your journey up to the half of the destination. The second issue was in this. The second step was that when you have statement of the problem, then the next is to bring it into the mathematical model. Mathematical model is simply you use the mathematical notation to bring down your identification problem. You use symbols, you use x and y rather than variables, you use betas instead of parameters. The third step was the statistical model. There is a difference between the deterministic model or the mathematical model and the statistical model. In mathematical model, we are sure about, we assume that there is an exact relationship. But in statistical model, there is risk of measurement error. You can say there is risk of some kind of incorrectness. The fourth step was, after the statistical model, we use in mathematical model we use the error term, and then it became a statistical, or you can say the probabilistic model. In probabilistic model we use the error term, and I will just give a glimpse of this, that error term captures the effect of all the variables that are outside or out of control of the researcher. So definitely it has impact on our dependent variable, but these are out of our control and we cannot capture this. So we assume that all the effect of all these variables will go into the error term. So after this step, the fourth step was the collection of data. Data is very important. So if you get reliable data, you get good result, and the reliability of your analysis is directly related to the data. The fifth step was the estimation of the parameters. In the model, in the statistical model, we found that we have parameters beta 1 and beta 2. We required the estimation, we required the value, numerical value of these variable. So we found these the numerical value of beta 1 and beta 2. The next step was to test the significance of these variable, the beta 1 and beta 2. The first step was to just check whether your results are according to the theory, and if these are according to the theory, you should go for whether your parameters are statistically significant or insignificant. The seventh step was forecasting or prediction. On the basis of your estimated model, now you can predict, you can give any value to your independent variable and you will come with the forecasted value of the dependent variable. And the last one was that the implementation of the result, that it is a very crucial step of this research, that the people resist and they are hesitate to implement this result. So this was the summary of the discussion for today. In the next lecture, we will continue this discussion. Thank you very much for your concentration, and Allah Hafiz.